Born to be a bounty hunter, Boba Fett is not like other boys. His father, Jango Fett, is a bounty hunter. His planet, Kamino, is home to an army of clones. He has no friends, no school. The one thing he does have is a future as a bounty hunter. This future comes quickly. Suddenly, Boba Fett is all alone in a dangerous galaxy. He must struggle for safety and vengeance, using his strength, his intelligence, and his father's hard lessons. Boba Fett will grow up to be one of the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. But first, he must survive his childhood.
Hello, younglings, and welcome to Padawan Library, the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I'm Levi Paratic, with me a very excitable Tim May.
It's me!
And today we have a mostly Star Wars episode for you.
We have almost all Star Wars. We're gonna
almost all Star Wars.
We're gonna get all the non-Star Wars stuff out of the way right now.
Right, no basketball. No basketball this week. Actually, well, I will say this: there will be some basketball next week. We heard you, Rip Mamba. We know we're coming for you, Rip Mamba.
Okay. I hope he's still listening. I hope he wasn't offended by anything I said about Kobe. I don't know. I don't know.
He was the one he's proposed that question to us for the team, so that was him. He wants to know the Sopranos.
I'm sorry, I didn't. I worry. I've been yelled at by Kobe fans in the past.
We'll get to that the basketball thing next week, but This week we are talking Boba Fett. We're on a new book series.
Pretty exciting.
New book. Boba Fett, #1, The Fight to Survive, by Terry
Bisson, isn't it?
The Fight to Survive.
Okay, sorry, I read it digitally, so I don't have it in front of me. So
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Terry Bisson is the author of this. We'll talk about him a little bit.
One of two authors of this series.
He wrote the first two books. I have
some speculation about. We'll talk.
We'll get into that. Well, then let's talk our the little bit of actual Star Wars news. We got some Mando news.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a big 8-part making of doc on May 4th, which is a day that doesn't matter, but just a random day they're deciding to put it out.
I agree.
And I'm excited about this. I love behind the scenes stuff. I didn't watch the Rise of Skywalker behind the scenes thing because, as the listeners know, I can't do it with that movie. Maybe I'll watch it one day, but I'm excited to watch these behind the scenes things. When I broke this news to you, and you were like, I hope that they put it out on disc at some point.
Right.
Yeah, I actually think that's possible. I don't know if Disney.
I think so too.
I don't know if Disney is as invested as like Netflix in destroying like physical media.
No,
because it's an extra revenue stream for them.
Right.
But, like, at least a collector's thing. Whether that's the future of all physical media. Obviously, is collector's stuff.
Right.
But I think that Disney people love collecting Disney shit. So I think and Star Wars, like. I think it will come out, but I don't think it'll be until after season 2 has started. Probably.
Well, Mando just premiered recently in the UK and other markets.
Yeah,
the day the documentary drops is the same day the series ends in other countries. So like in UK, so that's when. So for them it'll be instantaneous. We had to wait for it, but it'll be after that at some point.
Yeah, I would guess the blue will come next year sometime.
Yeah. Do you see any of the details of it though?
I just saw there was 8 parts.
See, I figured it would be each episode would be one episode about the series, but apparently what it's going to be is 8 different aspects of the filmmaking of it.
Okay.
And they're going to include also roundtable discussions with like Favreau and stuff. So I'm sure it's just going to be Favreau and Filoni just
I'm so
banter back and forth. I'm excited for that too.
Behind the scenes stuff. I miss it so much. So many new Blu-rays have like weak features at best. Mm-hmm. Like, if any, features. And, like, I include
Little Women commentary.
Oh, yeah, I need to get that Blu-ray.
I do, too.
Yeah. I will at some point. But there's, no, like, I just don't, like, even Star Wars, like, Last Jedi had an incredible release. Mm-hmm. But the other movies all have, like, pretty superficial features on them. I'm upsetting.
I mean, that's Ryan. That's Ryan there for you.
Cares.
He was like, this has to have a really...
I don't have the Knives Out Blu-ray yet, but I rented it from a Redbox to watch with my mom, who liked it a lot. But I had to return it, but I saw it was packed with features. There's 2 commentaries, including the in-theater one they did, plus another one with him and, like, his cinematographer. And, like, then there's, like, tons of features. I was like, apparently there's like an hour plus of like just documentary stuff. It looks like a really nice package. Like, if the filmmaker cares, then you'll get that with a studio movie. Like, and that's why you got it with Last Jedi. I mean, the doc on Last Jedi is incredible. Like, did you watch that?
Oh yeah, that documentary is phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
I mean, it's the same grade as the prequels. Each of the prequels had that level of care to them.
Yeah. So, and even if I don't like a movie, though, like, a great behind-the-scenes documentary can be very interesting. You know, an interesting one that recently, and I didn't dislike this movie. I liked it fine. It's a middling movie for this director, but Ready Player One, I got the Blu-ray on like Black Friday. You know, and that's a movie. Yeah, I like. That's like a 6 out of 10 for Spielberg, 7 out of 10 for anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of something like that. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. But anyway, I got the Blu-ray like on sale on Black Friday, and there's a 2-hour making of doc on it. I was blown away, and it's like actually really exciting, like interesting stuff, like insights from lots of special effects people. I'm excited about the special effects behind the scenes stuff for Mando.
Oh yeah, because
that stuff seems really
how they did all that with the screens and everything. I can't remember what the term for that is.
But, we'll know after we watch this, I'm sure.
Is it just me, or does Ready Player One feel more relevant than ever in our current climate?
It is. The problem with that movie, and the book more so, but the movie corrects it a little, but it still has a bit of this DNA from the book. The problem is that, like, the idea of the movie is, like, a great dystopian idea, but, like, the book especially is like too in love with all the stuff that it feels like it's like, oh well, we're you know, it's great that, you know, all the power in the world is in the hands of people who grew up loving like John Hughes movies, like Reagan motherfuckers, you know. But you know, the movie mitigates it a little bit because it kind of like it just scales back a lot of the, like, even though there's still tons of references, they're not being called out constantly the way they are in the book. And the movie helps that like Steven Spielberg's a great director, and that guy that wrote the book is terrible at writing prose. So like comparing those two, it's not hard. Which one's going to be more entertaining?
Well, he's known for doing that, taking a source material, source material, and elevating it. He always elevates it. It's not a
very good book, frankly.
And
it's okay. You know, if our friend Zach is listening, he'll be very mad that I said Jaws is not a very good book. He thinks the book's better than the movie. You know that? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
A classic Zach opinion. Like,
that is definitely a Zach opinion.
But yeah, like, and you know, but then there's sometimes when he adapts a great book, it's often like doesn't quite work as well. I think he's just great at elevating material. So it's like The Color Purple is a really good movie, but it's an adaptation of a masterpiece, you know. So it has like there's a slight leveling off there. Whereas something like Jaws.
Well, Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, not a great
movie.
book, no matter what anybody says. Not a great book.
He has a real talent for taking not great books and making them masterpieces.
The problem is, exactly. I wouldn't call Ready Player One a masterpiece, but it's like very entertaining. Like
he made it as best as he could.
It's the best version possible of that. So we'll see. So yeah, that's it.
I do have something to say about Disney Plus, though. I can tie this into Star Wars.
I saw you watched a movie that they've changed on Disney Plus.
Yes,
we share our Disney Plus account, so I saw you watched.
I watched Splash, the Ron Howard classic. Ron Howard, of course, the director of Solo, if you didn't know.
John Candy is so funny in that movie.
Oh, he's hilarious in that. But the way they changed the movie, in case you didn't know, there is a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie that the movie has been modified. It is that classic television disclaimer that they have modified the film. The way they modified it is there's the one scene where Daryl Hannah's walking up to the Statue of Liberty, and they made her hair much longer so it covers her butt. That was the modification they made, and Mel saw somebody describe it as they used the cat fur generator from Cats to cover her butt.
I don't.
It's pretty similar to that.
First of all, they could put it on Hulu, which they also own, if they're that worried. Also, it's a butt, in a non-sexual context. Who even cares?
Right?
I don't even understand. It's ridiculous. But whatever. Splash. I haven't seen Splash in a long time. Maybe I'll rewatch that.
It's an interesting movie because the basic concept of the movie is this ultimate male fantasy, and Tom Hanks, of course, plays it like a typical chum man who is just every time he encounters a problem with her,
that's
he's just oh nope, I don't know if I can do it, and he comes running back.
The Bachelor Party era of Hanks, so it's when he was just a poor man's Bill Murray. It's you know what I mean? Splash kind of turns him into his own kind of star, and then Big is what really makes him specific. But
Eugene Levy is so funny in that movie too. He's just constantly screaming.
I love Eugene Levy. He's so funny. Our friend of ours, who hasn't been on the show, but he's a friend of ours. He when we were in college, he watched all of the American Pie movies, including all the direct-to-video sequels, which he's in all of them. He's in all of them.
He's the one character that just is steady between all of the American Pie movies.
I couldn't make it past Wedding. I should check Reunion out at some point. American Reunion.
I haven't seen Wedding, but I did see Reunion. I liked Reunion.
Yeah, so. Wedding is not great, but I love the first one. The second one is the best one. Do you think do you agree with this or no?
I think I agree with you there. So
that's the funniest one.
I've only seen them all once, but I remember that one standing out.
Yeah, whatever. They're not. None of them are great, but they're they're fun enough. We should. At some point, you and some of our other friends are engaging in some sort of tournament about 80s comedies that I'm I'm the tie-break vote on.
He's the commissioner.
Well, we don't need to get into the details right now. But when that's over, you should gather the whole bracket together, and we should go over it on the show. Okay,
we can do that.
Because you told me there's one particular match that absolutely infuriated me, the result of it. So, I couldn't fucking believe it. But we'll talk about that on a future episode.
It's going to end, I think it'll actually end today, so next week we can talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about it next week.
I'll pull the whole thing together.
Alright, one last non-Star Wars thing, and then we could get into, there's a little mini Star Wars topic we're going to talk about before the book. Last week I talked about Trancers, the Full Moon franchise that I had just begun watching at the time. I've watched all the films now, and I just want to offer my ranking and my brief thoughts on the Trancers franchise. So, Trancers, if you didn't know, is again a time travel franchise, science fiction, action. Some
listen to last week's episode if you need to know.
Okay, it's very cheap. It started basically as a Terminator ripoff. It developed into something else. We'll get into it. All right, number one, the best movie is still the first Trancers. Okay, very easily. Mm-hmm. I like that movie. Number two, Trancers 2, The Return of Jack Death. All right, that movie is almost as good as the first one. Very entertaining. Gets a little goofier, but still very fun. Has all the characters from the original movie and all the actors, including Helen Hunt. Very entertaining. Number three, Trancers 3, Death Lives. All right, Trancers 3 is a big step down from the first two, but it wraps up the kind of mythology of the series fairly well, and it kind of feels like the end of the line, if you know what I mean. The Trancers heads got that joke. Number four, I'm going with the short. I explained what the short film was last week. The lost short film, Trancers: City of Lost Angels. That's basically non-canon, but very entertaining. Has the whole original cast. A lot of fun. Number five. Trancers 6. Life After Death. Now, this doesn't have Jack Death. He winds up going down the line and inhabiting the body of his daughter. Yes, in the past. His daughter from the past. Well, too complicated to explain. But I wanted to actually tell you about this one because it feels like it was a college project. And it looks like it was shot on a college campus. And, I'm not kidding, the quality of the direction is, a film by Tim May. Me. I was like, man, I could have made this movie, no problem. There's no... And I don't mean that as a joke, I mean it seriously. There's no sequence that I'm like, I don't know how they pulled that off. I could do it. I could do every piece of it. I was like, damn it. And I was thinking, I wonder if it was just a bunch of college kids that loved Trancers, because this is the last Trancers project ever. I wonder if they just loved Trancers. One of them wrote a spec script, sent it to Charles Band, and was like, hey, we have the money to produce this on campus. If we make it, will you allow us to use the name, and will you distribute the movie? And he was probably like, sure, I don't have to do anything? Great. And I was just like, man, we should have tried that when we were in college. We liked Full Moon enough. We watched some of these movies. Right,
I agree.
Disaster. Anyway, but
that's like what Phantasm 5 is, where it was just somebody was just like, I'm gonna just make a Phantasm movie, and it doesn't make any sense really, but there you go.
By the way, actually, Angus Scrim from Phantasm, he was in Subspecies at the very beginning, which is another Full Moon franchise that I have just started watching. We'll talk about that some other time. But the maybe. But he was at the beginning of it, and he has the "and" credit, and Angus Scrim, and he's literally in it for I'm not joking, 2 shots maybe. They flew this guy out to Romania where they shot the movie, the first Western film to shoot in Romania after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And and this is what it's so funny. Anyway,
you know what? A movie I watched recently that has an amazing cameo in it. We weren't going to talk basketball, but now we are. Slam Dunk Ernest.
Kareem is in that, right?
Kareem, yeah. Have you seen Slam Dunk Ernest?
No, I haven't. Even you, who are a huge Ernest fan, I saw gave it 1.5 stars.
It's a real step down from the other Ernest movies. I will give you that. Yeah, there was some misguided decisions made in that movie.
I saw you quoted something about that he became a black Muslim.
There's a crowd scene where Ernest is being ushered in, and basically Kareem gives Ernest a pair of shoes that make him just the greatest basketball player of all time. He
Classic
can essentially
basketball.
He can fly. But as he's walking into an arena during the big final game, somebody in the crowd goes, "When did Ernest become a black Muslim?" You just hear that in the background,
and it's Kareem, but that's a weird joke to make about.
It
Kareem.
It's an odd joke, and also one of the weirdest decisions made. It's it's clearly written by white people, and there was a conscious decision to make everybody else in the movie black. So like Ernest is like the only white man around, and there's just some weird things going on there, and it makes me a little uncomfortable to watch Ernest Goes to Africa, which I'm sure is also going to have some dated ideas in it.
That'll be like Jungle to Jungle adjacent.
I was actually going to. I'm afraid it's going to be like
the air up there. You ever see the air up there?
No.
That's about a basketball player from Africa that comes to New York or something. I saw it when I was a kid. I don't know. It's a 90s basketball movie, but yeah.
I was afraid of it's going to be like Ace Ventura 2 When Nature Calls.
Oof.
Yeah, that's what I'm really afraid of.
Both Ace Venturas have some dubious elements these days. Performance is
Part 2
great.
especially.
Yeah, well,
Best thing
have you seen the end of one lately?
Oh yeah,
that's pretty rough.
It's pretty rough.
But yeah, no, it is what it is. Jim's a lot of fun in those movies, though. Let me just quick wrap up the transfers.
Okay, finish up transfers, yeah.
Ranking, and then we can talk about Star Wars. We're 19 minutes into our episode where we're going to actually talk about Star Wars.
We haven't.
All right, so then number 6, I go Transfers 5. What was that one called? I don't remember.
Looking death in the eyes.
Sudden Death.
Oh, Sudden Death.
That one, we'll all talk about them with 4, because 4, which is at the bottom, that's Jack of Swords. These movies are terrible. They take place in medieval times, and I thought going in that it was going to be him time traveling back to medieval times, because it's a time travel series. But no, he gets transported to a different dimension that's like a medieval fantasy dimension, and they're very bad. And and the digital versions available are literally slowed down to like 75% speed. I'm not joking. And apparently Charles Band, when he brought these 2 movies to DVD, they just transferred they transferred directly from the tapes, but they transferred them like at the wrong speed, and he has never fixed them.
Oh my god.
So they're like 90 plus minutes when they're really like 72-minute movies.
Oh my god, he is the cheapest man.
You could transfer, even if he just wanted to put out a transfer of the tape, right? He could easily just transfer another tape at the right speed. It would cost him nothing.
It would cost him $0. All it would cost him would be an hour and a half of his time.
And he could dick around on his phone while it's happening. It's complete nonsense.
Oh my god.
Oh, okay. Sorry for all that talk. Let's talk about Star Wars. There was a big Star Wars TV special a week or 2 ago. An episode of the hit Fox series Lego Masters. It is a hit.
It does seem like a big hit.
It's a hit. It airs after The Masked Singer, and I didn't catch it from the beginning of the season, but I saw this Star Wars episode was coming up, and we decided we need to have some Star Wars content.
Well,
on the show.
whole reason is because I kept seeing these previews.
Yeah.
Because C-3PO, R2-D2, and BB-8 were going to be there, and watching the promos with Will Arnett. He's talking to 3PO, and I could not tell if it was Anthony Daniels or not.
I can't tell. I still can't tell.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. It seems like a weird thing
either.
for him to do right away after he made such a big stink about Rise of Skywalker being his last. Like, he's going to play the character again.
Oh, of course.
But, I think he's going to wait, a year, at least, before he does, so.
The guy who did do it, though, he did a very decent job.
Fine
job. It wasn't spot on. Fine job. Yeah. Very
Especially
fine job.
For a competition reality show guest appearance, great job. It doesn't...
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. It met everything it was supposed to do. I mean, he walks into... 3PO walks into set, Will Arnett walks in, and 3PO is like, oh no! And
that was actually funny. I liked that.
I thought that was funny, too.
Listen, the show...
Oh, and And when so they have this building competition. First thing they have to do is build droids, and then they have to build a scene from one of the movies. There's a part where 3PO actually is like on the floor talking to the people, and 3PO is actually really quick-witted. Whoever did play the part actually did have some like quick jokes in there that worked, in my opinion.
I agree.
But the robots were nothing I could build. But the scenes.
Well, I want to talk about the robots quick. I actually think the judges, and this competition is apparently just judged by 2 judges, and they make
the master builders
final decisions. Like,
I was shocked by that too.
That is so surprising to me. Like, even like most shows will at least like create the illusion that there's like an audience vote or something, or even like just a larger panel of judges, but like 2 judges, they don't even reveal, you don't see their deliberation at all. They just make the final decision about who wins, who loses each round. But the first round with the droids, the one they picked is easily the best one, which was like
I agree,
the catering serving droid,
and it's holding a plate on its head, and it's got the blue milk.
It was very fun. I mean, I'm anti blue milk as some essential element of Star Wars. Sorry, like the fact that it's become like it's just like blasters, lightsabers, and blue milk. But it annoys me that's in literally one scene of the original movie, and that now it's appeared in Rogue One. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, well, it's in a theme park now. It's a real item.
Of course, and I get that, and I will be definitely, whenever it's possible, both financially and just in reality for me to go to that, I will be having the blue milk. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen.
I keep thinking I could go with the stimulus checks that we got, but
well, you'd have to set it aside for a while, yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep paying my car off. That's
there you go. I'm gonna pay a credit card off.
Yeah. Very nice. Anyway,
I haven't gotten mine yet, but
I just got it yesterday, so hopefully. Did you do your taxes? Do they have your bank
yeah, they
account?
have my taxes.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, because if they didn't have your bank account number, they'd be mailing you the check, and that would be an issue for you. But yeah, but whatever. Why are we talking about our personal finances?
Oh, we're talking Lego. Okay. So after they build the droids, they had to build a scene. They had 10 iconic movie scenes to choose from.
You could not make out which. I was not able to make out like all the options that weren't chosen. Were you?
Right. Well, I was looking for prequels only. That's what I was looking for.
And I couldn't see anything.
I saw the pod race. That was the only prequel thing that I saw, which could have been cool.
Well, and as far as a landscape, I get that. I think they could have done the pod race in the Geonosian arena.
Yeah,
I think those are the. And Mustafar. Those seem like the ones that you could have been interested in. But the ones that were chosen were the Battle of Hoth.
Yep.
The Battle of Endor. And the Battle of Crate from Last Jedi.
Correct.
And they picked ultimately the Endor battle one, and it was very cool. Like it was. Yeah,
it had the most story elements in it because it had the Ewok on the speeder bike.
That was cool. That was pretty cool.
That was cool. And the problem with the crate one was like really kind of cool looking, but the crate also was missing the walkers. Yeah. That's, I think, a biggie, that it was missing the walkers. It also had the wrong stormtroopers, and you could have put Finn inside, like, the little ski runner thing, but instead they just put, like, a generic Rebel pilot in it.
Yeah, they must have had Finn available, I feel like. I liked the crate one. Like, the craft of it was really impressive, like, the way that they did the red, like...
the sand?
The red sand flying up, or salt, I guess. But... That, the only problem I had with that is it was a little messy, just in terms of like it didn't clearly direct your eye. It wasn't a great piece of like 3-dimensional art, you know, as two veterans of 3-dimensional art in here and sculpture classes, you know, two true artistes right here.
The composition was not there.
Yeah, you know, you got to be able to look at it. Like, there was a specific angle the camera got it where it looked solid, but, like, there were plenty of angles the cameras caught it where it just looked like a gloop. And, like, you know, if you're making a 3-dimensional piece, it's got to look nice. You got to have good contours from every angle.
Art experts.
Well, hey, man, we did take those classes.
We do technically have degrees, degrees.
We're probably more experts than a lot of people that work on Lego Masters. I'll at least say that. Not everybody. I'm sure there's some art degrees there, but I bet there's some people that are just executives that don't.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I agree.
Anyway, but the problem with the Hoth one, it just, I don't know. It was very impressive, but it just felt kind of boring to me.
Yeah,
so I get why that came in last. I understand why that.
Yeah, the Endor one was made by the two dorks.
Oh my
the
god,
two
those
really
guys
big dorks.
The ultimate dorks.
Oh, and the one guy, first off, they took their droid too seriously because it's an Imperial welding droid, and it was just, all it did was its arm lifted up, and
then the front panel they had pop open.
Yeah,
or whatever.
It had no whimsy to it.
Yeah, that was my least favorite droid, even though the one of them fell apart. I still like the idea of that one more. The kind of music droid, but when the chicken walker fell apart, the guy was nearly in tears. He was literally about to start crying. It was absolutely wild. Well, this was also the penultimate episode, I guess. So,
right.
I guess the prize is $100,000 between the two people. So that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I get it, and they even kept the part in where two of them were talking about we could buy a house.
We could have a nursery,
so
even funny. Now, you're building sympathy.
Yeah,
but I'm sure.
I spoiler that couple won apparently.
Yes. Oh, did they? Oh, wow.
Because the finale, I guess, was last night. So
okay.
But yeah, no. Here's my thoughts on the show overall, which obviously isn't all Star Wars themed. With the Star Wars stuff, too many of the same references to Star Wars. Like the droid, these are not the droids you're looking for, was referenced, I'm not joking, 3 times. Mm-hmm. That's bad. You can't do that. What are you doing? One time is already, I'm rolling my eyes because it's one of the most over-quoted Star Wars lines of all time. But you do it 3 times? Come on. You got Will Arnett on set. He knows comedy people. Ask him to bring some people in to write some better Star Wars jokes.
Well, the banter between him and R2 was actually kind of fun.
That was, he's funny. He's a weird host for that kind of show. I think. I know he's Lego Batman, but he has a weird energy for that sort of thing.
He really does, because so much of his energy, otherwise, is he's kind of an ass, that kind of thing. And,
that's his persona.
His persona is he's an ass, but he's being really nice on this show.
But he always seems like he's being sarcastic. It's
I know.
It's amazing.
It's like Dennis Miller. He's always sarcastic.
Oh boy. Man, what happened to Dennis Miller? I used to love him.
Oh my god.
He's insane now, I know.
He's so insane.
I know all about Dennis Miller. I didn't mean that legitimately. I used to love Dennis Miller on SNL though, on SNL reruns. He was one of my favorite Weekend Update people, but yeah.
Well, we saw him host. Remember when he had a small gig on TCM as a host? Because that's what Dennis Miller does. He has small gigs as host on different things.
Sure, and I'm sure he makes obscene amounts of money on stand-up shows.
So he had this host corner thing on TCM, and we watched Duck Soup on the app.
Okay.
And he had Martin Short on as his guest, and it was very
Martin
obvious.
Short.
It was very obvious that Martin is a big fan of this movie, and he loves the Marx Brothers, and it was very obvious that Dennis had just seen this movie maybe an hour ago and had Googled some things.
Well, Dennis Miller, I don't know. I used to find him so funny, but yeah, he's a bummer now, but whatever. It is what it is.
Speaking of weird energies, I recently watched a video that was a loop of the in-room resort, Disney, a Disney resort, the TV channel that would give all the different things to do in the parks. Mm-hmm. And so it went through every park and showed you what every attraction was. And one of the things in the studios was this thing where you could be green screened into a movie, and the movie that you were green screened in starred Chevy Chase and Martin Short.
Oh, I've heard of this. I think.
And the two of them together seemed like they would have a very odd energy.
Have you seen Three Amigos?
Oh, that's right. They were in Three Amigos together.
Yeah.
That's true. Never mind.
I love both. I mean, listen, that whole era of comedy, I just. Like, basically, anyone that was on SNL from, 1975 to, 1990, to, 2000, I love.
Right.
Or I have some attachment to, even if I don't love them. You know what I mean? I'm just, just because I've seen all those episodes so many times. Mm-hmm. But, anyway, yeah, so...
Lego Masters.
Lego Masters, I think they made the right calls, basically, with the winners. So,
I'm sure we're going to have another episode in the second. That's no way the show's not coming back for a season 2.
Star Wars is so dominant as a Lego property that they're going to have to just keep doing Star Wars stuff, I feel like. But I might actually watch it next year. The contestants were all the kinds of people that kind of annoy me.
I know.
But I still had a decent time. But the one I don't think they were a couple. I think they were just friends. The one guy was so nervous, and I was felt so bad for him. His partner, she was trying to calm him down the whole time, and they actually did pretty well, but it was just very
Well, the problem I had with the one couple, the ones who apparently they won the droid challenge, was just he did all the talking. Kind of thing. He didn't leave any room for her, really. Kind of thing.
And they're actually a couple too. So
but
not
anyway.
who knows? You don't want to get inside someone else's relationship.
Right. So
anyway, well, if they do it again, we'll talk about it again. I actually had a decent time with it. I might watch it next year.
You're already watching Masked Singer, so you don't even have to change the channel.
Exists next year. It's going to be hard to do without the fucking X'd out crowd. The crowd on that show is the highlight because they're so insane. They definitely are all
with no crowd. That show would be so odd.
Yeah,
especially
I would love
it.
They're okay. We can only have one judge and the contestant and Nick Cannon, and that's it. That would be so funny. And the one judge is Robin Thicke. That would be stunning.
Take note, Fox. Take notes.
Anyway, all right. This week we are returning to a new series. Not returning to. We are starting a new series. Mm-hmm. Boba Fett takes place in the Clone Wars era. I'll say that. And, the first book. So, pretty exciting. I read it this morning. And we will talk about it after the break.
When we come back. Yep.
Welcome back to Padawan Library. I'm Tim May, here as always with Levi Perriton.
Hello.
And here we are, embarking upon a brand new series.
We are.
It's been a while
exciting.
Since we've done this. Mm-hmm. So, and the new series is Boba Fett, which was published in between episodes 2 and 3. Correct.
These came out at the same time as the Jedi Quest series.
Basically, it's seemingly kind of alternating with Jedi Quest, something like that. So, very cool. And this is the first book, which is called The Fight to Survive, and it's by a writer named Terry Bisson.
Bisson, yes.
Yeah.
I have some info on Terry here.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, so this is from a lot of this information's from his website. So Terry Bisson, he is a Ballantine.
Wait, is he the scion of the Ballantine book fortune?
I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't read anything about that.
Well, Ballantine Books is a very big publisher.
Right.
That's all.
Right. Well, that's his middle name. His middle name is Ballantine. Okay. So, but he is a sci-fi writer born on February 12th, 1942, meaning he was 60 years. He was 60 when he wrote these books.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
we may get into that because there's some like old timey dad son things going on in this book that I think are kind of silly, but like makes sense that a 60-year-old man wrote them. He grew up in Kentucky, went to Grinnell College in Iowa, and also the University of Louisville. Then he worked as an auto mechanic, and in 1981 he had his first book published at the age of 39.
Nice.
Yes, that book
Dream
was
for
called.
us all.
Yes, that book was called World Maker, spelled WYRLD Maker. And then he's been actively releasing books and novels and shorts ever since, such as The Pirates of the Universe, which, according to his website, was the most reviewed sci-fi book of 1996. Big claim there. And then in 1996, yeah.
William Gibson didn't put out a novel that year?
I guess not.
That seems suspect to me.
Yeah. Especially for such a bold self-claim. However, the one thing that shows up a lot, like on Wikipedia and everything, is a short story he wrote called Bears Discover Fire, which won him the Hugo and the Nebula Award.
Okay.
And basically,
when was that published?
It was 1990. Okay. So it's about a group of bears learning how to make campfires and making campfires in the middle of the road and just hanging out. He's also he's done his paycheck jobs too, Tim. You know, sometimes you just got to do that job, write that movie novelization for a paycheck. His movie novelization.
They call it the Alan Dean Foster job.
Yes. So his novelizations include Johnny Mnemonic, The Fifth Element, Alien Resurrection, Galaxy Quest, and the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, The Sixth Day.
Oh,
no, The Sixth Day.
Damn. Interesting that Johnny Mnemonic, I mentioned William Gibson earlier. That's based on a William Gibson short story, so he wrote a novelization of the movie based on the short story? That's so funny.
And he's also done his fair share of young reader stuff. So he wrote 6 entries in the NASCAR Pole Position Adventures for Kids series.
Thank God.
So he knows his things about NASCAR. And then he also wrote Trading Paint, Stock Car Rookies, and Royalty, which was a Scholastic book. So that's how I'm assuming he got this gig writing these 2 Star Wars books. So,
well, and the stock car thing, NASCAR adjace. So, this guy, I gotta say something. I'm gonna say something about this guy.
Okay, listening.
I think he's a pretty good writer.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I don't think it's incredible, but he brings some level of panache to this prose. It's not so plain, but it's also not. It's not, he knows what he's writing, but it's not
right.
And I gotta say, the book read very smoothly. I read it all in one sitting this morning.
The only I like the beginning of this book. I think the beginning of this book is silly. Then it dips a little bit because we're just doing a retelling of Attack of the Clones. But all the stuff after is interesting. So
yeah, so I'm actually excited. This series is written by 2 people. We'll talk about this more when we get to one of her books. But the other author is
book 3.
The other author is Elizabeth Hand, and I just offhand just clicked on her name on Amazon when I was looking at the digital copies of these books. The only books she's ever written are in this series. Notable. Questionable. That's all I'm saying. At least that are on Amazon. I haven't done any further research, but I feel like that's a seed to plant for future episodes. Could it be another pen name for our girl?
It's as if she wouldn't be busy enough during this time.
Hey man, she wrote 20 books in the other period between the 2 movies, so she got time to maybe throw in an extra couple in there.
There is no about the author in this book. I'm looking at book 6 now of the Boba Fett series. No about the author. So
interesting.
It could very well be.
Well, anyway, so Terry, but this is Terry. Let's give Terry his day.
Yep.
You okay?
Knock my mic over. Just knock my mic over. Leave it in.
I'll leave it in. It's fine.
All right, so Terry. Oh, also I should mention we'll get into this next week. I'll do my research on the illustrator of these covers. These covers have an illustrator and a designer, so we'll mention that next week. We'll do the research on that.
Yeah. So this series, again, you mentioned it. The first 70% of this book takes place during Attack of the Clones. Basically, from young Boba Fett's perspective.
Yes.
There are plenty of... I'm not saying we're skipping to the end of the book, by the way. I'm just saying... and there's plenty of little details that we're going to want to talk about along the way. But the story, you know it. It's Attack of the Clones. So we start out on Kamino.
Yep,
right?
and then Jango goes, "Pack your things. We're leaving."
Yeah. So
and then
all this
they
stuff,
leave.
a couple big important things before they leave that are specific to this book is that Boba likes to go to the library, and he loves reading.
Does.
Boba's a young reader. He's our direct audience. He's listening.
He's
to
bookworm
the show right
Boba.
Now. Yeah, bookworm Boba. And he goes and he sees the librarian droid Whir.
But is he a droid? We don't know. We only hear hummings and clicks.
I assume it's a droid. And no, we do know because there's a point where Boba thinks he hears somebody crying, but he knows it can't be Whir because droids can't cry. So we'll talk about that. Basically, he goes here, he takes out books all the time, and basically when Jango is like, we gotta leave after Obi-Wan showed up, before that, Jango gives Boba Fett a thing that looks like a book, but is actually just like a holodeck thing.
Not
holodeck, you know what I mean. Holo projector that has a message from him. He's like, only open this if something happens to me. Basically, if I die. And so but Boba's a very good library boy in that he knows that they're going to be off planet for a while. Like, he can't let late fees accumulate, so he has to return all the books to the library. This is real, guys.
Yeah, I know. Jango Fett's like, pack your things, we're leaving. And Boba's like, wait a minute, Dad, I gotta return these books. Hold up.
So he runs to the library to return the books, tells Whir that he's going to be gone for a bit, and Whir calls after him. He's like, wait, Boba Fett, and he's like, no, I just gotta go. But, and this isn't revealed till much later, but mistake, he left the book from the Jango, like, holo book, he left with Whir, so that'll come up again later.
And there's something else that's important, too, about this opening segment, is we learned that Jango has a pet eel in their apartment.
That's true. This is a big thing that, like, Boba keeps killing the eels.
Yeah, so when Jango leaves to go to Coruscant to assassinate the senator and ends up killing Zam Wesell, he leaves Boba Fett with a bowl of sea mice to feed to the eel, and there's 5 sea mice in it, and he says, for every day you feed the eel, I'll be back in this many days, so he'll be back in 5 days, 5 sea mice. First 2 days, Boba is creeped out by the eel, and he feeds the mice to him anyway, and he feels really bad about it. Third day, he decides he's going to free one of the mice. So he takes it out to a water garden, puts it in the water. He's like, be free. Thing swims away. Giant wave comes, washes the thing away, kills it immediately. Fourth day, actually, Boba's like, I'm going to try again. He takes it to a balcony. He throws it into the wide ocean.
And a leviathan, a giant sea monster, comes and swallows it up.
Immediately it happened. So on the 5th day, Boba says, screw it, he just feeds the sea mouse to the eel.
It's the way of life. Like, it's like he learns slowly.
He does. He learns so slowly.
The utility of life.
And then, before he goes to return the books, so he tells Jango he's going to return the books, and then Jango is described as having like a whip-like item in his hand. Turns out it's the eel. He throws the eel at Boba and says, "Here, go release the eel." So Boba does that. It's also eaten by a leviathan. The eel gets his day. but it's
so wild.
It had me laughing so hard. Oh, and then one thing we have to mention too is after Django gets back from Coruscant, he reveals that Zam's dead because Zam is Boba's only friend. He claims the only real person he knows.
Django's only friend.
Yes,
from Boba's perspective.
Yes, and so we learn about that. Boba also dreams about having a mother, which we'll get into later during the Geonosian battle. We should make note of that. But when he gets back from Coruscant, Django reveals that Zam's not coming around anymore, and then the two of them go fishing together.
Oh right, they do go fishing.
And I should have this marked somewhere. Oh, I do have this marked. Okay. Crap, where's it at? Okay, the next day, this is on page 23. My book's falling apart, by the way. The next day, Boba and his father went fishing. The rain was light, so they sat on a rock near the edge of the sea. Boba took pot shots at rollerfish with his Pocker, a laser-aimed spear thrower. Django made him turn off the laser and sight by eye. So we got a nice little father-son bonding moment there.
Very nice. And listen, this whole opening section that's on Kamino is basically just about kind of establishing Boba's relationship with his father, how he feels about the clone army, all that stuff. And it's just about establishing the character as he exists in Attack of the Clones. We've never really talked about Boba Fett at length. I guess before we move forward, we should probably talk a little bit about Boba Fett, which is... it's one of the only basic bitch Star Wars opinions I have is that I just don't like him in Attack of the Clones. And I find that it does kind of hurt the character dramatically to make him into like a little baby boy. I don't feel that way about Darth Vader. I do feel that way about Boba Fett, who just is like a character with so much more mystique and to make him into this it's like, get him, Dad!
I know.
I just can't do it. I don't like it. And I know that'll lose us listeners for the kind of show we've chosen because the prequels are perfect and they have no problems and they're fine. They're perfect movies. Please don't say anything.
I loved all the movie dialogue in this because Boba has so few lines actually, and like one of my favorite is just like when Ton Weeg comes to the door with Obi-Wan and he's like, "Is your father home, Boba?" And he's just like, "Yeah." That makes me laugh. Like, yeah,
it's very funny because it's like Terry who's like, "I got to get every line that he says in the movie into the book." It's very funny. Like when I could hear little Danny Logan's voice when it was like, "Get him, Dad!" I could just hear it.
I know. I love all the Django lines too. This guy just can't take a hint. And I think Django in this book's really funny because Django always has these witticisms. Like, they're supposed to be like life lessons. They're classic dad witticisms that he has in this book. I wish I had some pulled up right now, but like they're always like, a bounty hunter never complains, said Django, in that special voice he reserved for his code, and neither does his son.
This is the way.
This is the way.
He almost says that.
He almost says this is the way, yeah. He gets real close to saying this is the way.
So wild. I was shocked by that.
And also, too, I had a realization, too, in the new canon with Bazgard, his armor is probably Bazgard.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's made out of, probably. So, I mean, he's got that same shininess, that same, not chrome look to it, but yeah.
Yeah. But, so... Yeah, Boba Fett. So an entire series based on Boba Fett of Attack of the Clones is not exactly the most enticing thing for me.
I know. And then to make him a library nut, too. Like, he's a good kid who goes to the library.
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy. He's a real good boy. It does not help that mystique, the badass mystique of Boba
Fett. He seems like at least like a little shit in Attack of the Clones, but this is like, no, he's a good boy.
He's a good boy. He's a very good boy. and he's like so naive that you're just like, this boy's gonna get so screwed over, like, and that's what keeps happening to him too. He's a good boy, and all this bad shit keeps happening to him.
I know. Well, that'll turn him into a hardened badass at some point, I'm sure. So basically, he drops off his library books, and they leave, and they're chased. And there's really no difference in the big chase that Obi-Wan chasing them through the asteroid field.
The only thing that I thought was, it's only mentioned that he shoots sonic bombs at Obi-Wan, but like the sound is never noted. I think that's probably because like Terry had to read the script. He didn't get to see the movie. Did this come out in
May or June?
I think so. Yeah, probably. Does it?
Yeah, I don't have the print. I don't have.
I feel like this book was out when the movie came out, so it had to be. But yeah, there's no mention of the sound, which I've always thought that sound is really cool. I love that sequence in Attack of the Clones. Yeah.
Man, Attack of the Clones. We've talked about it before. I just like that movie. I know I just talked shit on Lil Boba, and I still don't like that, but that movie, that movie plays, man. It just works. There's in Star Tours, and when they redid Star Tours, you get multiple different story elements. You can go to different planets, but there's one that it's it makes no sense at all, but it is the most incredible action scene. And you're taken to Geonosis, and you're in the rings of Geonosis when Boba Fett shows up, because apparently there's a rebel on board, so he's coming to collect the bounty on that rebel. So you have to dodge and weave through the asteroids, and Boba starts shooting those sonic bombs at you, and just to hear those and feel the reaction. But then what makes no sense is that then you encounter a Death Star in the rings of Geonosis. Could have been the Death Star under construction, but then there's this whole Death Star element too, where you fly into the Death Star. Makes zero sense. Do you at least get to see Poggle the Lesser? No Pog. You don't land on Geonosis. You only stay in the rings. Ugh. Disrespectful. But it is all George stuff. So George, when you go to Naboo, Jar Jar does show up. Well, in Naboo. Yeah, because that renovation happened before the sale, right? Right. So yeah, now that was all updating with prequel stuff. Yeah. Right, and they've updated it with sequel stuff. I know they got everything now. Yeah, they had to do it because it's just easy. And just plug the video in, and but yeah, so. More George than Galaxy's Edge. But anyway, so they go to Geonosis, and Boba discovers the droid factory, and he knows about Count Dooku. He meets Count Dooku while he's there. And then Boba witnesses the arena match, and Boba has a physical attraction to a certain character. He loves Padme. He was in love with Padme, and he's like Anakin. It's just the same as Anakin. He couldn't believe how beautiful she was, and he was hoping for her to escape. He hates Obi-Wan, right? And he hates Anakin by proxy because he just hates the Jedi. He hates the Jedi. Yep. Because they're after his dad, but even though she's clearly aligned with them, he's like. Something about this woman. She can't die. She cannot die. Cannot witness this woman be killed. And then, but there's also moments too where, when Anakin breaks free, Boba Fett's impressed by how cool Anakin is. He was like, "Oh damn, that guy's got moves!" So funny. And I thought this was a bit of an odd choice. So, unless this comes back in some fashion, I thought it was weird for him to have the hots for Padme. Not that it's surprising. He's a young boy. He's got this mom complex though, because he has no mother. So that's like Anakin. Yeah, I know. A lot like Anakin. God, those two would get along so well. They don't know it. Yeah, but so Boba Fett. Basically, at this point, it's the end. He witnesses his father's murder. Well, I wouldn't call it murder. It's in the heat of battle. This is his father being killed by Mace Windu. Yes. Who, by the way, described very heavily by the color of his skin, in very strange ways. Like it's just like I'm not directly quoting, but something like the charcoal face. I'm not joking. It might not be exactly that.
I do not recall
that kind of thing. I wish I had it noted, but
I am finding it. Hang on.
I promise you, it's something like that. Like
please, Vamp. Okay, let's see here. I'm close. Okay.
But yeah, no. I mean,
okay. Okay. All right.
Good.
The Jedi's face was dark, like fine wood. His eyes were narrow and cruel. His purple lightsaber drawn and ignited.
And then there's another one later, but
yeah, that's what I'm looking for now.
Yeah. So odd. I mean, listen, he's a 60-year-old man at this point.
Right.
To be fair. That explains a lot.
It does explain a lot. So anyway, Jango is beheaded, which this is always something that... So in the movie, you see the helmet fly off. Mm-hmm. You assume that the head is in it.
That's what I thought.
Right.
My whole life.
Which always makes it odd when Boba picks up the helmet and sticks his head on the helmet like he's butting heads with it. If his dad's head is still
that makes it harder to me. That's like the one Boba moment I loved. I'm like, man, he's putting his head right next to a decapitated head.
But this book makes it that his dad's head falls out. It's the empty helmet, is what it specifically says.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. It does, but there's also no mention of Boba recovering Jango's head. There's no mention of that. But so after this, Boba then buries Jango Fett. He takes Jango out into the desert of Geonosis. Strips his armor, buries him, grabs two broken battle droid arms, and forms a JF for the grave.
Yeah, which, by the way, there's no English alphabet in Star Wars, especially
You're
at this
right
point.
About that.
Yeah, although this is before the 2004 update of the special edition, when that officially eliminated that language from canon, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So... I was going to say, like, wouldn't he put Arabic symbols?
Yeah, he would.
Yeah. But yeah, he makes a little marker on his grave, and then he realizes that he left the book back at the library finally. Right.
And he hides Jango's armor. The armor's too much for him to carry, so he hides it on a cave in Geonosis.
And he never goes back in this book to get it.
No, he takes the helmet with him because he needs the helmet to pilot the ship. So he realizes he left the book on Kamino. He hops in Slave One, goes to Kamino, sees Wur again. He tells Wur the story of what happened. Wur gives him back the book, and then
250 credits.
Right, it's a fine because the book didn't belong to the library, kind of thing. Yeah. So, like, he gives him some money. It was
actually a nice little moment. I enjoyed it.
It was a nice little moment.
I like Wur. I hope we see him again.
Right, I agree. And then Boba goes back to the apartment on Kamino where he runs into Tan Wee. And Tan Wee goes, "Oh, don't you know, Boba? The Jedi are looking for you. I called them as soon as I saw Slave One land." And Boba's like, "Tan Wee, you bitch!" Like, and he storms out. And as he storms out, we get a cameo. Suri Tachi shows up
from Jedi Quest and Jedi Apprentice.
Jedi Apprentice. What we have here is, okay, Boba was still lost in thought when the turbo lift arrived. Then the door slid open, and it was a Jedi, a woman young and tall. Boba ducked aside and let her walk past. He kept calm and kept walking. "Suri, you're too late," said Tan Wee from inside the apartment. That was it. That's all we see of Suri. We never
see her again. I hope we see her in a future book, and there's a reason she appeared at all. But if she appears again, that gives some credence to my Elizabeth Hand theory.
You got a point there. You definitely got a point there.
So anyway,
okay. So then Boba opens the book. This is important, and so let me find what the book tells him because it's very important. What
three big things.
It's basically setting up what the whole thing is going. What I feel like the whole series is going to be about. Jango tells him these three things, and let me find it here. Okay. There are three things that you need now that I am gone. I can only point you toward them. These 3 things you must seek and find on your own. You're on your own. The words had a cold, familiar sound. The first is self-sufficiency. You must find Tyrannus and access the credits that I've put aside for you. The second is knowledge. For knowledge you must find Jabba. He will not give it. You must take it. The third and most important is power. You will find it all around you and in many forms, but beware, sometimes it is dangerous. And the last thing, Boba? Hold on to the book. Keep it close to you. Open it when you need it. It will guide you when you read it. It is not a story, but a way. Follow this way.
Baby.
Yeah, he says,
this is
follow this way. Yep.
This
and you will be a great bounty hunter.
This is the way. Sorry. That's a terrible reference.
I know what you wrote. Isn't that a Weezer song?
Rivers solo.
Okay.
Demo. Good Lord, kill me. So when Boba opens his book afterwards, it basically just gives him cryptic little life lessons. It's basically a fortune cookie after that point, is how I would describe the book. So he decides to go to he's got to find Dooku, Tyrannus, and all he knows is that Jango met Tyrannus on the moons of Bogdan? Is that where I'm? Bogdan. So he goes to Bogdan. Bogdan has multiple moons. He needs Dozens
fuel
of
and he needs food and fuel. So he lands on Bogdan 4, where he goes to a bar, and he meets a bird character, and that bird's character's name is.
Well, first he gets the bird. He doesn't meet quite yet. He meets.
Oh right.
What's the character? Honest John.
Honest John. Yeah.
Who Honest John spelled Gjon, right?
Yes, it is.
Classic Star Wars spelling. But anyway, so Honest John is like a mechanic, and he's going to fix. There was some damage made to the Slave One, and he claims he's going to fix it for 200 credits, basically. So that's 200 out of 250 credits that your boy has.
Boba has, yeah.
And so he goes then off to a cantina, and right before he gets in there, he meets this bird character. What's the character's name?
The character's name is... Oh, I didn't even look it up. Oh, crap. Where are you?
It's like 3 letters. It's A something.
Yeah. Okay. Era? Not Era. A-I-A. Aya.
Aya, yeah. So Aya basically tells Boba that he'll be able to find more information about where Dooku is in this cantina, and then he's like, "Oh, can you come in here with me?" And he says he can't because he's a thief, and everybody in there hates him, and he flies away. This character. So then he meets Rodian and another.
I can't remember the other species.
2 bounty hunters.
But there is something like a bit of racism here, because do you remember where it says both species typical of becoming bounty hunters, something like that?
Yeah,
like they.
That's like,
okay, here here it is. Boba recognized him as a Dialon. The other was a green reptilian Rodian. Boba knew that both members of both species often became bounty hunters. So, stereotype much, Boba?
Yeah. Well, Boba should be a good guy, so I'm okay with that, I guess.
Yeah, so these two characters tell him to go to Coruscant. Count Dooku's on Coruscant in this bar in Coruscant. So Boba's like, all right. So Boba leaves the bar, meets up with Aya again, finds out that
and we find out immediately that those characters are essentially that there's a price on Boba's head from the Jedi, I guess, and they're and so they're just leading him to Coruscant so they can easily trap him, basically.
And then he meets up with Aya again, and we find out that Honest John is not an honest man, and he steals Slave One, and he is taking it to his chop shop on Bog 11. 11.
And so then Aya basically takes Boba by the hand, and they fly to a different moon.
Yes, they do. They fly in between atmospheres. There's a moment where they're in space and like it's really cold and like Boba like opens his mouth and he's just like, it tastes sweet. This is, I actually read this book when it came out as a kid.
Really? Okay.
Yes, and that is one of the moments that I do remember from this book specifically, going into this book, that there is a Birdman and Boba rides on his back and they fly between moons. And even as a kid, I found this a little strange.
It's kind of cool. Like, I just caught up on the comic book Saga, which some of the listeners might know. It's by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. It's a big space opera. It's great. It's on hiatus right now, but I finally caught up, and that book has tons of weird mashings of like fantasy and space opera and sci-fi and like talking animals and all, like it seems like something that would be in that book, like a bird that can fly in the atmosphere, like.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I know.
That's what...
So they get Slave One back from Honest John. And they easily convince him to give the ship back. No issues there. And then Honest John goes, well, I know a way we can make some money, because they fly these counterfeiters fly counterfeit credits between two moons with weather balloons. And if we take Slave One, we could easily recapture those balloons, and then we'll have a lot of money. So they capture
and they make 100 credits.
They make 100 credits because they get boarded by a guy who claims that he's security and that he's commandeering the ship. Yeah. And Boba Boba accelerates the ship. Guy goes flying out the back into space. Boba thinks like, oh shit, I just killed that guy. And Aya's like, no, he had a spacesuit on. He'll be fine, like kind of thing.
So crazy.
But when they do that, they lose all the money except for 100 credits, which they give to Boba. Boba then goes to Coruscant, and he has to...
Before he leaves for Coruscant, Aya gives him a hug.
Uh-huh.
And then when he's in hyperspace, he realizes that Aya took all his money.
He's got no money now. He's got zero money.
Or it might have been Honest John. I don't remember. But anyway, so he gets to Coruscant, and he gets to that cantina pretty quick. And there's... The bartender is alone. There's nobody else in there. And so Boba Fett says, I'm looking for Count Dooku. And
who is the most wanted man in the galaxy at the moment. You know? Like he's
Boba Fett is... He's a little twerp is what I'm saying. What a little twerp. Anyway, so he asks him, and then what does he do? Like, he immediately basically attacks Boba, right?
Yeah, he grabs Boba. I think he's the same species as Dexter Jester, because he has a bunch of
arms. Yeah,
and he's in cahoots with the Rhodian character, the other bounty hunter slime from Bog 4, and they're going to turn Boba into the Jedi and collect the reward. Now, during this scuffle, Boba actually breaks free of this guy, and he gets to the door. But when he gets to the door, there's a lady standing there. She stuns the bartender, and then she's like, "Well, Boba, you're coming with me." And this is Aura Singh. We get Aura Singh cameo.
Legendary Aura Singh. And by the way, Aura Singh says, "Come into the car with me," and Boba's like, "Great, I'm coming in." And then he's like, "Thanks for rescuing me." And she's just like, "No, I just I got your bounty." And so he's like, "Oh no!" And I'm tricked again.
He gets tricked left and right.
So basically, but she says she's not working for the Jedi. She would never work for the Jedi. But there's a bounty on his head from someone else. So she then takes him to Slave One, back to Slave One, and is like, "You're flying. and they fly to the planet. What's the planet called?
Oh, Raxus Prime, the trash planet.
Yes, they fly to Raxus Prime, which is a trash planet. Smells disgusting in the atmosphere. It's even seeping into the Slave One when they're flying in. And then they reach this big compound, and they go inside, and it smells okay. And who's there? Count Dooku's there.
And Ara, as a payment for her bounty, gets the Slave One. She takes off in Slave One. He's lost Slave One. Yeah. And Count Dooku says, "Oh, your father had arranged for us to meet, kind of thing. I have big plans for you." And they basically kind of walk off into the dark. Count Dooku's like, "I'm going to show you your room, little boy." And
Boba notices that he gets a chill anytime Dooku touches him.
Yes, because when they first meet on Geonosis, he pats Boba on the head, and the hand is cold. Oh. And that hand is cold at the end of this book, too. So it'll be interesting to see. Yes, that's how the book ends.
I want to say a couple things. One, most of the plot we just described happened after, 70% of the book. So most of it is Attack of the Clones. And that would normally maybe sound like a criticism the way I just presented that. But it's not really. I actually kind of enjoyed, seeing Attack of the Clones from a different character's perspective. Even if I have some issues with this characterization of Boba Fett, the character himself is okay. He's not terrible by himself. I don't see how he becomes Boba Fett. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me. But
he's got a lot to learn. So much to learn.
I enjoy him being such a good boy. It's very funny to me.
Because even when he shows up in Clone Wars, he's not a good boy. He's more in line with that little shit kind of mischievous kind of character.
By the end of Clone Wars, by his last couple appearances in Clone Wars, I kind of like the character. By the way, if Boba Fett ever shows up on Mandalorian, do you want him to be played by Tamura or Daniel?
Oh, I want Tamura. 100% I want Tamura. And if Captain Rex is showing up too, I want Tamura for Captain Rex too.
I think that's for sure going to happen if that happens.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. But also, I did the math. By that point, Captain Rex, age-wise, since he's the accelerated growth, is a 60, 70-year-old man at that point.
Well, he's old. So, we see him in Return of the Jedi.
You're right. He's old. He's pretty old. So that's 7 years after that. So he's even older than he is in Return of the Jedi. So
who knows? But I'm looking forward to that. But do you think they might go with Daniel because to not be confusing? But it wouldn't be confusing.
It wouldn't be confusing. No, and
Daniel's perfect if they want to do a Boba Fett story set between the trilogies. Now that would be great.
Right.
But, I don't know. We'll see.
But Boba's age at that point in Mandalorian is, he's too old. Tamura's perfect age for that right now, in my opinion. So,
yeah. I mean, he's maybe a little old.
He could be a little old, but we can make him look young. We can make him look young. We can make him look old. It doesn't even matter if he's alive. We can put him there. So, that's how Disney operates.
True. They need their stock prices to go back up if they want to keep doing that.
Well, you see, Iger's back. Iger is not leaving the company at the moment.
Well, he wasn't leaving anyway, but yeah, I'm not surprised. Iger's running things day to day during the crisis, which makes sense, to be fair. I mean, I don't know what that means for old Chapek. But
even we'll Chapek's I don't even know what's going on.
But I get why the board would want someone that's a steady hand during a time like this, I guess. But still, wild stuff. Anyway, not to get into too much corporate intrigue at Disney, but I think. But as far as this book goes, after it moves past the events of Attack of the Clones, I actually kind of had a good time with it. But he is such a dummy.
He's such a dummy.
The galaxy hopping parts of it were fun, and I enjoyed a lot. I liked Honest John, and I liked all the little side characters were a lot of fun. But he's so dumb. It's even for a 10-year-old, I'm Like, would a 10-year-old be this trusting? Like, the son of Jango Fett? Like, one of the most ruthless bounty hunters in the galaxy?
It's because he has no parent, like, he has no friends that he'll just trust anybody.
He's been raised by a librarian droid.
Oh, brother.
But I had a good time with it, though. I can't I can't get too mad at it. So yeah, even though it's pretty silly, I did have a very good time with it. I'm probably gonna go like a 7 out of 10 here. Mm-hmm. Like, this was very fun to read. I wonder how it's going to run as a series, but it's also short. It's just 6 books, right?
It's very short, yep.
So, and I read it for free, by the way. It's on Prime, like, Reading or whatever.
Oh, good. So it
Amazon.
Is free. So
all
for
of
listeners.
them are free. So if you have, I don't know if it's just if you have Prime or if it's like just free period digitally, but it's free in some form on Amazon Prime. If you don't have access to the physical books right now. So anyway, so I enjoyed it. I'm going to go 7 out of 10 midi-chlorians and flavor it with Whir, my boy. Oh,
that was who I was going to flavor it with. A little splash of Whir in there. I'm going to go...
take a dip in the whirlpool.
I am writing that one down. Take a dip in the whirlpool. So we're in mostly agreement here. I'm gonna give it 6 midi-chlorians, and since you flavored it Whir, I'm going to flavor it Surrey. I screamed when I saw that name pop up
because you told me there's a big cameo in this book, and I wasn't even thinking about Jude characters really. I was like, what character is going to show up? So maybe another bounty hunter like Dengar or something. But but when it was Siri, I was like, I cannot believe it's Siri. I was so happy.
I was happy too. I feel like there had to be some.
Do you pronounce it Surrey to avoid activating Siri on your phone?
that only happens whenever, like, if you can turn that feature off. So, like, to talk to Siri, I have to hold the button down.
I'm just making a joke about the difference in how we pronounce it.
I know.
That's all.
Well,
it's not wrong. I don't think it's fine.
Right. Yeah. If anything, Jude should be collecting from that, but,
Oh, yeah, she invented that name. Anyway. No, I'm actually looking forward to this. What's the next one called? Out something?
No, the next one is called Crossfire.
Crossfire, I knew it was one word.
Something I do want to mention. So whenever when I was Googling the information on this book for the author, you know how sometimes you Google something and it'll have like a series of reviews, like underneath, like 3 reviews? Well, there was like Amazon Books, one other thing, I can't remember what it was, and then the third one was BobaFettFanClub.com. It gave
classic.
the book a 4 out of 5 stars. There was I went to the website, there was no review. It was based on 2 ratings. 2 people one person had given it 4 stars, one given it 5.
Let's do a quick talk about the old internet and character fan club shrine websites. Did you ever go to any of these?
No, I mean, I'm sure I've been to a few of them in my day. I mean, that was the thing to do.
A big genre of fan site used to be the Character Shrine. And, listen, I'm about to admit some embarrassing shit on this podcast right now. So, I was a huge fan as a young boy of Tenchi Muyo, which is an anime series, which aired for a while on Cartoon Network. It's about It's about a young teenage boy and his all of his alien girlfriends, basically. Very silly. It's very good too, actually. Like, especially the original series is really good. It had a bunch of spin-offs that are of varying quality. But anyway, there was this was a very popular thing on the internet for briefly in the early 2000s. Like, I'm talking year 2000, 2001. And there was a message board for the Ayeka fan club. Ayeka is one of the characters on the show. She's in a love triangle with Tenchi and another woman named Ryoko. basically, like, fans were split who they wanted Tenchi to wind up with, that kind of thing. So I was more of an Ayaka person. These days, I don't know, maybe more of a Ryoko person. I'd have to watch it again. But, but anyway, so there was a fan site called the Ayaka Fan Club that I posted on this, or lurked at least on this message board and posted sometimes for years. Like, I'm talking like from 2000 to like 2005, 6. A very long time. The old internet, what a wonderful place.
Well, speaking of the old internet, I have a Boba Fett related story about the old internet. I was obsessed with Boba Fett as a kid. This is, of course, before the prequels. We're still in the 90s when Boba Fett still had a lure and mystique to him.
Yeah.
And my step-grandmother had the internet. I did not. So what I did was I took a floppy disk over to her house, and I saved I went on StarWars.com, went on the databank, of course, legendary databank, pulled up the Boba Fett page, and I saved the entire web page to the floppy disk so that I could go home and open the web page on my computer and read the page.
Listen, the old fan internet, I'm sure there were assholes like that I just didn't recognize because I was like 10. But, like, and it was hard for me to parse what was good and bad behavior online at the time. But, it felt so much more pure. Like, it was always just about the thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I like this, I don't like this, but I love this thing overall. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can like this part of Star Wars, I don't like this part, but I still love Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, it felt very different. I'm sure it was bad. Star Wars, especially, might be the birth of terrible internet fans. There's a big relation between the internet and Star Wars. There's a huge correlation there, and with some of my fondest, I'm not joking, my fondest internet memories are on that Ayaka Fan Club website, which was all about Tenchi Muyo, which was popular in its time, but is now very obscure. Like, I feel like it's like they just did a new series in Japan, and I don't think it even came out here. Which that's like nobody cares anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, but it's oh man, I didn't think I was gonna reveal some of my darkest anime dork history here, but I did. It is what it is.
Oh, but all right, let's wrap this thing up. This has been a longer episode, so all right, that's Fight to Survive. Nail in the coffin. Next week we are reading book 2 of Boba Fett, Crossfire.
You'll get caught up in it.
You will. And the following week after that, we're reading The Maze of Deception. Is book 3. And this book, I'm looking at the cover, it's got Aura Singh on the cover, so that'll be a fun cover. And then
we're taking a break from Boba Fett.
Yep, a 1-week break.
And we're doing which one is first? Is it Secrets or Legacy?
I think it's Legacy of the Jedi.
And then we'll do the back half of Boba Fett for 3 more weeks, and then we'll do the other one.
Right, and this is our Clone Wars segment of the library. So we're all in the Clone Wars timeline right now. This
is all from the Clone Wars multimedia project. So we're talking Genndy Tartakovsky. We're talking Shatterpoint. We're talking Dark Horse Comics. You know what I mean?
Which, if you have any of these physical books, Tim, in the back there is a timeline, the official Clone Wars timeline in the back of these books.
Definitely take a photo of that and send it to me. You need to take a photo of the back of this book and send it to me so I can record our intro, by the way.
Oh, okay. So, good thing you told me that, so I'll do that right away. Make sure you do that
in the next 5-10 minutes after we finish up here. Anyway, I forgot about that till just now. Anyway, so that's what we're doing next week. This was a fun episode. We talked a lot of Star Wars.
We actually talked Star Wars.
Talked a lot of Star Wars.
All right. Next week, get ready for some basketball-centric talk.
We're going to talk a little basketball, talk a little classic prestige television. Hint,
yes,
hint. Anyway, so shouts to Rip Mamba 824. He gave us a good idea for next week. So anyway, that I'm sure all of our listeners will love, but he'll like it, and he actually interacts with us, so he deserves this. Anyway,
all right. As usual, follow us on all social medias. Just Google it. I'm sure you'll find us somewhere. Buy the shirt until the books are due back. Well, until the books are due back, Tim.
The library is closed. A sentence I believe were actually said in this book!
We're legend! Absolute legend!
Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by the Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Copyright 2020, Tim May and Levi Peretic, all rights reserved.